Hey, welcome to our newest episode of the Financial Advantage. We're powered by the Wells Funding Group. My name is Dennis Wells, and I'm really excited to have Kim Wilichowski with us here today. And she is with 1% List, Arkansas Real Estate.
Yeah,
And Kim, thank you so much for joining us here today.
you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
So, 1% List, tell me about that.
Oh, well, I found this opportunity online. I was researching. I've been in real estate for almost 9 years, and I wanted to do something a little unique, a little different. I didn't want to just hang my, real estate license with just another real estate group. I wanted to kind of do my own franchise. And embarking on this, I found 1% less. So keeping in mind my background, I have been a buyer for the world's largest retailer at Sam's Club, and then I've also sold to Walmart and Sam's Club. So understanding the model of low margin and high volume really resonated to me when I found this opportunity. So 1% List Arkansas Real Estate is a franchise. We now have 58 franchises in all of the United States. I was the number 28th franchise to sign up. And basically, when you go to list your property, you traditionally would list, let's say, for 6%, 3% to the listing side and 3% to the selling side. What we do is we reduce our fee to 1%, and then it's negotiable on the buyer side. So if a seller has the room in their budget and they would like to cooperate with a buyer agent agreement, then we would filter that into the equation. And the rules are all changed now, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if they can, and we encourage them to, anywhere from 2.5 to 3%. But ideally, this franchise was really just spoke to me because it allows people to save money. And when you get on this side of the fence and you start doing what we're doing, it's just been an amazing opportunity to witness, just to be able to help people do things differently. We're still full service. We do everything any other real estate agency would do. In fact, I think we have to work a little harder to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
But with advancement of technology, we just do things very efficient. We're pretty streamlined. We leverage where we can, and just bring an opportunity for people to save money to list their property.
Okay. So you were doing kind of the buyer broker compensation before buyer's broker compensation was cool, it sounds like.
Yeah, I did. I was about, I would say, 5 or 6 months ahead of the NAR lawsuit.
Okay.
And it was an opportunity for us to position ourselves because I saw a change in real estate. I knew that there was there's industry disruptions all over
Hmm.
where we are today, right? So whether you are buying online versus brick and mortar, whether you're purchasing a car online versus going and sitting 8 hours at a dealership, whether you're
Right.
staying at an Airbnb versus a hotel, whether you take a taxi or an Uber, right? There's industry disruptions everywhere we go. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall and thought, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to be able to stand out because how would I differentiate my value equation? And
Hmm.
then knowing that these transitions were happening and coming to real estate in our entire industry, I didn't want to be scratching my head, just like wondering where the next paycheck's going to come. So we got out ahead of it and bought the franchise in December of 2022. 2023 was our first full year, and we haven't looked back since. It's been amazing. And, there's criticism out there because it's not for everyone, and that's okay
Right.
too.
Right.
You got to be able to wrap your mind around, whether you want, what's the saying, $1 or 11 dimes,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take 11 dimes because they're going to give me a whole lot more referrals over
Yeah. Yeah.
time
Yeah. Yeah.
versus the $1. And so it's a different mindset. And I'll tell you, it's just been really well received here in Northwest Arkansas. We are the home of Walmart. This is the home office. This is where it started. So save money, live better. That's their slogan. And I sometimes like to say I'm the Walmart of real estate. So why not? When in Rome,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and I love the transparency. You know, to me, I think that is the well, I think that was the whole purpose behind the Department of Justice and, negotiating settlement with the National Association of Realtors is that there was not clarity around how this
Right.
worked. And I mean, not, I'm sure that there was a vast minority of agents, but would say things like, well, don't worry about it because I'm free to you. And it's like, well, but you really weren't free to
Right.
us because it was baked into the cost of selling the house. You just didn't know it. And so, yeah, I think that the way that this has worked out, I don't know that it's made housing prices cheaper at all, but it has at least, created the transparency around, yeah, people know what they're paying for now.
Well, and I think if anything, a lot of buyer agent commissions are going to be factored into negotiations, is where
Hmm.
it's happening. You know, if you're working for a traditional brokerage and the expectation is 3% and you can't deviate from that, that's great. We encourage you to write it into the offer, and we'll take that into consideration. You know, we're pretty transparent. We're 1%, you know.
Right.
Some people look at our logo though and they think, is this kind of funny? They think that we're the top 1% of all real estate agencies. I'm like, well, not yet, but slowly we're working our
Right,
way
right,
there.
right.
Which is fun. But it, you know, ideally that opportunity for buyer agents before, when it was just listed on the MLS and you just accepted what a seller was willing to do. If they were at 2.5 or 2, you didn't question it. And so now, if your expectation is 3, and that's what your brokerage requires, then you're able to negotiate in a contract. I think some buyer agents are making more than they were
Hmm.
before. So
Right.
it's kind of like, not that it backfired, but it is, you know, it's kind of come full circle because now we're just writing that expectation into contract.
Yeah, yeah, and letting people know like what's involved, and we've really kind of revamped our buyer presentation around this to say, you know, so whatever, so if you're a first-time home buyer and you're looking at $300,000 house, which seems kind of crazy for a first-time home buyer, but that seems about where it is anymore. You're
Yeah.
probably looking somewhere in the neighborhood of $9,000, or at least to budget that for the buyer's agent compensation. Now, the good news is you don't have to pay that today. The better news is, most people that are selling houses to first-time home buyers, were first-time home buyers not that long ago, and they know what it's like to have no money. So they're probably
Right.
going to help you out, as do builders and others. But then you can also use it as a negotiating tool as you're maybe a move-up buyer, and if you're competing against cash, and we can, get you through underwriting so there's no mortgage contingency, maybe talk about an appraisal gap, and maybe talk about paying some or all of your buyer's agent commission. Now, all of a sudden, that offer is very competitive to, because obviously you're seeing it on your side of the listings where, yeah, if someone comes in and they're not asking for buyer's agent compensation, well, that's just more money to the seller, which is at the end of the day all they're looking for.
Right. I like to say that when you're working with a seller, it's very transactional. When you're
Hmm.
working with a buyer, it's very emotional.
Yeah.
You know, I have a beautiful property. We bought it a long time ago. It scared the heck out of us even to get into this $141,000 transaction, you know, on 15 acres 30 years ago. And, you know, we were quabbling over one window. And I'm just like, oh, for the love of Jesus, let's not go there. Let's just get to the finish line, you know. But it's very emotional and you make those emotional decisions. And you know, we often say here again, just don't be short-term happy and long-term stupid, right? Let's like look at the bigger picture. Let's really evaluate what the goal is, and then how can we eliminate those hurdles to get there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I love the creativity, and um, I love the ability to use technology to help streamline your process. What are some things that you're doing technologically wise that is making the process smoother and able to scale the way that you're doing it, the 1%?
You know, that's a great question. And I think you know, we talk about that industry disruption with real estate. You think back that it's always been traditionally 6%, but the MLS is electronic. We no longer have an MLS printed book that we look at, you know, every back in the day to filter through all the listings. We're not having to drive to and from everybody's house. Everything's electronic signatures at the drop of the hat. We aligned with a title company that a really good title company that allows us to e-sign for transactions, and they're doing e-notary. So again, you don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to be present to sign. Things that we're doing internally. As a real estate owner and brokerage, you wear a lot of hats, right? How do we market ourselves? How do we social media? And how do we go down that rabbit hole? And then what does our logo look like? And the one thing I loved and I found about 1% List was it was all done for me. I
Mm,
didn't have to sit here and think about, understanding Canva so I can pull together marketing materials. We send in an electronic request. They have a marketing team. Everything comes directly to us. I don't have to sit here and figure out what my logo is going to look like, right? And it's the same across the country, kind of like
mm,
McDonald's. You pull up to McDonald's, you expect those French fries are going to taste like those French fries. That Coke's going to be just as good as, the Coke here in Northwest Arkansas. And
right.
so the franchise did something really, really smart is they had that consistent logo across no matter what it is. And so the reality of it is, I don't have to put that hat on and have to think about it. So that allows me to focus on my business. What other
Love
things
it.
we're doing internally here is electronic listing presentations.
Mm,
Um, 3 or 4 iPads throughout the office. And with that, we're presenting our listing presentation similar to your buying. When somebody comes into the office and they want to get a loan, everything's electronic, but it has all the examples of our social media and the
mm,
videos and the email campaign that we send out because we can tell somebody what we do, but it makes such a huge impact when we actually show them. And it's all baked right into our listing agreement. So if I'm going to compete for a listing with another brokerage, and they're showing up, with a stack of piece of paper that they printed for a listing presentation. We're just above that. We're moving on. We're
yeah.
electronic. Everything's technology. It's baked in. We're all over social media,
Mm.
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok now, much to my, kicking and screaming. But you know what? I leverage that and I hire really good help. So I know how to
Yeah.
like and share, and these girls know how to build it all. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not dancing on TikTok. I'm just
no, right? You do the dance. No, but the reality of it is like wherever I can streamline efficiency, wherever I can think through a process, even from a systems that we have on the back end, not going and manually paying my people at the brokerage. It's all baked into my software now. And it's just you have to be able to leverage that technology because times are changing. And then, what I'm looking at today is probably going to be obsolete in 6 more months. We're going to
right,
evolve,
right.
right?
Yeah.
But we're no longer doing those things that we were still doing back in the day when it was 6%. So everything's gotten a lot easier. It's gotten a lot streamlined, which allows me to be able to work on a little bit lower margin. And it works out. I mean, we have a lot of buyers that we help and represent. And when we work with a buyer, we're going to make a little bit more.
Hmm.
And so, but the good news about it on my business is I don't have to pay for leads anymore.
Right.
Um, Back in the day of buying Zillow leads or Realtor.com leads, every time we put a sign in the ground organically, people are like, "What's this? What's
Hmm.
this?" And I want to understand that, and it starts a conversation, and then we work with that buyer as well when they're transitioning or selling their home. And so it's been a really interesting dynamic. It's been super fun, so I can't
Yeah,
complain.
yeah. Yeah, I love it. And I the different camps right around technology. There are people that are like scared that technology is going to take over our life. I look at it that, in the other two camps of, people that use companies that use technology to get them farther away from the customer, and then others that use technology to bring you close. And I'm like, if we can, the more we can automate those things that are not really customer facing but need to be done, so that
Mhm.
we're more engaged with the client and giving them more education and more value, then then we're going to win at the end of the day, because you're winning through the technology, not you know because it's doing a lot of those repetitive things that it used to take people to do, and now it doesn't take my time to do that, and I can be more engaged with the clients
Right.
and their needs. So
Which is important. I mean, I think sometimes we're, real estate agents, but we're also psychiatrists and psychologists, and we help them muddle the storm. And there's life-changing decisions that we're a part of, and they need that help and support to navigate this crazy thing we do every day. But utilizing technology, it will frees up our time.
yeah.
And what we do is a little bit, we don't work. A lot of people think, well, you're doing more transactions, you're working harder. We're not. We're working smarter and we're working different.
Hmm.
We do work with our fair share of buyers, which is fantastic, but we also do a lot of listings throughout the week. And so that kind of frees up we kind of set our schedule a little bit more differently. So we're not
Hmm.
running around on the weekend as much as we were, unless you choose to, where there's a lot of other people that are bringing you offers when you're listing as much as we are.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd imagine that you have a pretty dialed in flow of how things work, so that
Yeah.
kind of like we've got a perfect loan process, but it's probably like a perfect listing process. That way, you're doing the same thing every time.
Yes, we are like a well-oiled machine. I'm very fortunate to have some fantastic people that work with me. I have a full-time listing coordinator. We have a full-time social media director. I have two amazing interns that are working directly with me under social media marketing as well. So we do a lot of our own in-house social media with the reels and the production. But everybody kind of knows their marching orders when we get a listing. We meet the seller and then we go back the next day and this person's going that way, that person's going that way. In
Hmm.
30 minutes, we kind of wrap it all up and we're in and out and can
Yeah,
flip a listing. We can get a listing live, within 24 hours pretty easily, based on the process that we have kind of implemented.
nice, nice. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Some bigger ones will
Um,
take more time, but for the most part, we're
yeah,
able to be pretty efficient with what we've created.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. And you'd mentioned the 11 dimes over the $1. Are you finding that a lot of clients are referring friends and family to you all based on your model?
Yes, 100%. I mean, you can just jump online and look at the five-star reviews being full service. Everybody's like, what's the catch? What's the catch? I'm like, I get it. Like everybody wants to know what's the catch.
Mm.
And there is no catch, right? We're doing everything any other real estate agent would do. We're just saving them money in the process. And from that, we are getting a lot of referrals, which has just been another reason why you don't, once you start to build this business and this network and doing what we do, that lead acquisition cost goes down because we're not having
Hmm.
to pay for it. And
Right.
word of mouth is the best way to build your business from
Yeah.
referrals. And we're getting a lot of repeat business, a lot of referrals, a lot of friends and family, and it's a blessing to be a part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, when you're looking at, your cost to acquire a client is so much lower
Mhm.
than, yeah, it makes sense in that way, because you're basically passing along that savings to clients who are then going to refer you other people that that are going to convert at a very high level.
Right. Absolutely. And it's interesting. When before we started this, our average price point was a little below the national average, about 280 to 290. That was before COVID, right?
Hmm.
And now it's gone up organically because everything has gone up. But to your point earlier, that 300,000 is the new 200,000. That is the new opening price point for a lot of first-time home buyers. But since we've transitioned into this model, my average price point has gone up to almost $480,000. That's my average price point now when you look at the transitions. So we're doing more volume. Yes,
Hmm.
we're making a little less, on the margin, but the reality of it is the volume has gone up because my average price point has gone up because that sweet spot where people can really see the opportunity to save money is that somebody who's moving up and moving out, or
Yeah.
somebody who is wanting to get out of the first time home and they want to move up into a better home, into that four to $800,000 is where you can really start to save thousands of dollars. That could be just very impactful into your life as to what you could do with that savings.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And um, and you don't take percentages to the grocery store and buy groceries. It's like real dollars. So,
And
it.
sometimes on a higher price point, we find agents get caught up in the percentage and not the dollars. If I'm listing $1 million house, I mean, I'll take $10,000 all day long versus, and a lot of people get caught up on the percentage and they want 3%, but the reality of it is $10,000 is huge at
Right.
1%. And at the end of the day, I'd rather have 1% of something versus, 0% of nothing, right? Or
Right.
3% of nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
1% of something versus 3% of nothing.
Yeah.
I think that that to me really resonates. And so we're not really caught up on the percent as much as the dollars have really gone up for us overall when you look at the how we've evolved this business model.
Yeah. And, you know, so talking business, then, I would imagine that most of your costs are fixed. So the more volume that you do, it becomes more profitable with the more volume because I mean I guess you kind of take it from like the retail world, you if you have a store, you have to, rent is what rent is, utilities are what utilities are, you know, uh, you know, all of those kinds of things that run into that. And so like, yeah, the more volume that you can do, the more your profit margin is, the more profit you're going to have. Your margin can
Right.
stay the same, but the profit is going to go higher because you're covering those fixed
Right.
expenses more.
Yeah, and our expenses are fixed. And I'm not a real bougie boutique brokerage. We're smart, we're real methodical with what we do and how we do it. And so, but there's expenses to every business. We do have a business office that we run out of.
Yep.
Most of my agents work from the office. They prefer to come in to the office and have that interaction. Plus, I'm always handing out leads. Who's here? So
You're
they know
right.
they come in, it's like trick or treat, get candy. And so, we are looking to expand. We do have an agent that services Hot Springs and Little Rock area.
Oh,
I
nice.
am in the middle of talks of Oklahoma, expanding into Oklahoma because this business model, it's one of the only franchises that are growing when you start to dissect it and look at what's growing out there. And I looked at big box real estate agents when I wanted to kind of do my own thing. And I looked at different business models and I've been a part of them. And I said, you know what, I want to do something different. And so there is the opportunity to grow your numbers in terms of agents, but I'm also very selective with the agents that we
Hmm.
choose, only for the sheer fact that I'll tell you this, that you have to have a servant heart to do what
Yep.
we do, and to help people because you're working just as hard as that buyer agent or that listing agent. And then you're looking at that Alta or settlement statement and you're like, well, I only made 1% and they made 3%. And I'm like, well, that's okay because I have three more closings. And I'm like, bye, moving on, right? Whereas that
Right.
might be that only agent's closing that month. And so you have to kind of get out of the weeds in that, right? You got to look at that bigger
Right.
picture.
Right.
And but we, like I said before, it's not for everyone. When I transitioned into this brokerage, I lost five agents and they went to other brokerages that they've moved on and done other things. And so we transitioned in with eight agents. And the first year that we were in business, we were able to save $675,000 for our clients just on commissions alone.
Mm.
So this year in 2024, I set a goal of $1 million. And you know what? We hit $1 million in client savings at the end of October. And so,
Wow. That's
yeah, we
tremendous.
were
That's
really
tremendous.
excited. Like, what are we going to do next year? Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and that's why I say you have to have a servant heart that, we're in it, and we're doing everything we can to help our clients. But it's so rewarding. I've had numerous transactions where I'm sitting across from, this big guy and he's all burly and he's just like, okay, so what is the bottom number, right? Because sellers are very transactional.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're like, well, this is your commission and this is where it's going to fall in when we do our net seller sheet. And he just looks there. He's like, okay, that's your percent. What's there? So I'm like, no, it's 3% total, right? Because 2% for the buyer and 1%. And this grown man is just reduced to tears
Mm.
because he didn't think he'd be able to sell and get break even on his home, but actually make money and be able to pay off his son's student debt
Wow.
because they were getting upside down on a property. And so when you start to think about how you can impact, lives like that, it's truly rewarding. The majority of the agents that work with me, I say majority, most of them, this is a second career for them.
Hmm.
And so to circle back around or get outside of the corporate America world and into something truly unique where you can help people to make an impact and make a difference. Yeah, that word of mouth travels fast. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I keep getting reminded of the Zig Ziglar that you can get everything you want in life as long as you help enough other people get what they want,
right.
and it goes along with that servant's heart of, you know, yeah, you're maybe getting less on this deal, but you have four or
Right.
five more that you're doing this month, as opposed to that person might be getting more, but like I said, that might be all that they're doing. and then they don't
Right.
know where their next opportunity is going to come from.
Yeah.
And, so I love it.
And you know, the cool thing that I've noticed too, with this franchise is that more people know about me by the time they call. Not me, but the brokerage. They know about
Hmm.
our brokerage. They've done a lot more research and they know exactly who we are. That I don't have to sit here and try to sell my value and sell my worth,
Right.
which a lot of agents struggle with, right? On in terms of how am I going to differentiate myself? I
Yeah.
mean, they're all fabulous. We're all wonderful. We all want to work hard. We all answer our emails. We all try to respond on time, but how am I going to differentiate myself? And if I'm standing in there, in the room and I'm going to compete for a listing agreement, I would say that 99% of the time we win those opportunities because they know more about me than I know about them. And I
Hmm.
wouldn't, when I first started, I was like, yeah, right. That's what the franchise owner told me. He's like, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it's true. It's
Yeah.
100%
Yeah.
true. You call and they're like, I'm ready to list. It's not like, hey, let's have an appointment. I'm interviewing 3 agents. I want to list my property and you're one I want to talk to. It's like, I'm ready to go. Tell me what price. And it's such a unique dynamic. Like I've been on both sides of the fence, like I said before, and this is just it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, do you find people are more open to take your pricing advice with the model that you have? I mean, you mentioned that like, hey, I'm ready to go. Just tell me what to list it for, as opposed to, maybe in a situation where they're trying to calculate, oh, I want to get X and I need to add 6% to that plus another whatever here or there. Whereas like if you're going in saying, hey, we're a flat fee 1% to list, and they say, well, hey, you know, where do I need to price it to have it move? Do you find that they're more open to taking your advice in that situation, or does it just depend on the client?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question because COVID changed a lot of things for real estate industry. I mean, when we were in COVID, anything and everything was selling so fast because
Hmm.
interest rates were all-time low, and we're not in that environment today. So we
Right.
need to remind sellers that we are not in this environment. In fact, pricing has settled down and they're coming down because interest rates are a little bit higher and things are taking
Hmm.
a little bit longer to sell. So we look at all different dynamics. It's not just here's the comp set that I pulled, right? We go high level and then we zero in, and then I'm presenting all different types of numbers, and I put it in such a different way that it kind of plots out where I think they're going to be successful selling.
Hmm.
And are they open to our suggestion? And the question is sometimes if we know what their goal is, like what is their
Hmm.
level of motivation and what's their timeline? It's not just about throwing a dart at a number. It's really about just the whole big picture. So if they have a place to go, what does that look like? And what's that strategy? And how soon can they get there? Great. Let's be a little bit more aggressive because you have a quicker exit that you need to make. If they're
Right.
just kicking tires and they're not in a hurry, we can put whatever number you want out there. But the assumption is, and I think all real estate agents kind of feel this, in my opinion, is the assumption is that if the property's not moving, the real estate agent's not doing their job. Well, the real estate agent is doing their job, but there's no amount of promotion I can do behind a property if it's not priced right.
Hmm.
I'm a merchant, right? We talk about the 4 Ps of a product, and it's no different whether it's a product on a shelf at Walmart or whether it's a house, right? It's
Hmm.
product, placement, promotion, and price, right?
Yep.
Those 4 Ps. So the product is the house, it's the location, right? The placement's
Hmm.
at location. And then the promotion comes if the price is right. And so if those are out of whack, there's no amount of promotion I can do that's going to move
Hmm.
that needle. I can showcase it on Facebook. I could put it everywhere. I could advertise it. I could pay for Google paid ads and Facebook ads. But if it's not priced right to move, it's not going to move.
Hmm.
Uh, and so we talk about that. We talk a lot about that you have to, if you're not in a hurry, okay, you know what? We're going to do our thing. You do your thing. We're going to promote it. We're going to see what the market's going to bear. But if the market comes back within 2 to 3 weeks and that market's saying, nope. All
Right.
right, then
Right.
let's adjust, right? And we talk about price corrections being a normal part of real estate. It
Hmm.
is. A lot of people think there's a stigma around it. Well, if it's been on the market for a long time, it just means that you're not a motivated seller. You're not in a hurry, and that's okay too. Everybody has a different end result and a different goal that they want to achieve.
Right.
Um, I love the opportunity to break it down and say, okay, $300,000 home we're going to list for 1% versus 3%, that's, you know, an additional $6,000. We can leverage that in price. We can leverage that in the opportunity to take some additional markdown or repairs that we might need to do to
Hmm.
get to the finish line, right? So we have a little bit of room to work with if we need to, versus listing at a traditional 3%. And so that does help sellers if they have to make a decision to mark the property down. But you know, it's not just a throw a dart at it. You know, there's a lot of different things and different.
Right.
I will say that some still, okay, let's go a little higher. Okay, well, I'm going to recommend we can list there, but this is where you're going to be successful selling.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, because we have a
Yeah.
data set around it and we study those numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. And anymore, what I'm finding too is that, buyers are looking more at the payment than they are at the purchase price, which I think is why so many people were wildly successful, during the pandemic, like you said, when, rates were artificially low because, the payment was where everybody wanted it to be. And then, now coming back and say, okay, well, instead of doing a price reduction of, you know, $50,000 that might, save your potential buyer $150 a month or whatever it is, maybe you do like a $25,000 um, seller paid buy down on the rate where, on a full price offer, we'll do a $25,000 buy down that will get you, a rate, you know, 2% lower than the current
Right.
rate for, and go up, 1% a year till it gets to the note rate, and then at least, get people in. I mean, because I see, D.R. Horton doing that a lot, or a lot of the builders where they're buying blocks of mortgages. That's a little tricky too, but they're able to, they're not advertising the features of their new house. They're advertising
Right.
the interest rate and the low payment. And
Yeah.
so, helping people see that, hey, there's a way for, you know, us to accomplish the same thing without you being, a big, multinational here, builder. You don't have to be a national builder to be able to do some of these things, but help people, be able to see themselves in your house, with a more affordable payment too.
And we work with, you know, local lenders like yourself too, and analyze if a seller has room in their budget for $10,000, let's spend that money wisely. Does it make
Yeah,
sense to just take a price correction and bring the price down? Or to your point, can we utilize those dollars a little bit more efficiently so that it's really going to entice a 30-year rate lock, you know, at 5.5%? What? Yeah, versus
right.
7%. Right. So, and I don't know what the numbers typically are, but that is a really good point where we can pull that in when we're working with a buyer to be able to be methodical about the numbers and then give
Yep.
that buyer those options. We've been successful with that as well.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
and I think I was going to ask you a question. Are you finding that everybody who locked in at the 2.7 or the 3%, that those homeowners are kind of feel like they're stuck?
So yes, yeah. I think that, that is definitely, I think that's a real thing.
Okay.
And so we offer, there's no cost, no obligation, but let's have an equity transition plan meeting and talk about, because, what we find nationally now, every individual is different, but, nationally, homeowners have more equity in their house than they've ever had before. But at the same time, they have more non-mortgage debt than they've ever had before. So a lot of
Yeah.
people get stuck on, oh, my interest rate starts with a three. It's like, well, the interest rate on part of your debt starts with a three, but the interest rate on, some of your other debt starts with a two and ends with like an eight. So, you know, what if we could, I mean, if your house is a 10 out of 10, let's figure out what else we need to do to help you manage that debt. If your house is a 5 out of 10 and you're simply staying there because you like that low mortgage rate, why don't we sit down and take a holistic view and look at, well, what would happen if, we, took some of that profit out of your current house, that's tax-free, $250,000 for individuals, $500,000 for a married couple, and let's find where you want to be. Let's, pay off your non-mortgage debt, maybe put a little bit less down on your house, But the tax advantage is you paid off debt that you're paying interest on that you can't write off with tax-free money. And then, you're putting a little bit less down on a house, but now that interest is, you know, tax deductible interest. So, and again, caveat, I'm not a CPA, so do check with, your tax advisor, but I know it's true. It's like um, I know what the, the tax, deductibility of mortgage interest is, and, to purchase a home or to, fix up a home they already have. So a lot of times, people get stuck on, oh, my mortgage interest rate is low, and they didn't realize we can help you create cash flow and, not just have wealth in your house, but also be able to, invest in your 401k and get the company match. If you got kids, put money in a 529. For goodness sake, make sure that you have adequate life insurance and disability insurance. No one likes to talk about that, but it's like, what happens if something happens?
Right.
Is your family going to be taken care of? And so that's really, what we're trying to do as well is help them have a holistic view and maybe see that they can get from where they are to where they want to be.
That's a great approach. I like that. It's more holistic to your point. Because there
Yeah.
are options, but I have run into some conversations with some sellers lately. They're just like, I can't let go of that rate. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a tough call. I get it, but like we
Yeah.
said earlier, don't be short-term stupid and long-term happy.
Well, exactly, because you want to be, I mean, because, I see, great, melding of what you're doing with, hey, let's help you maximize your profit on your house. And then the other side is let's help you, be wise about that investment, what you're doing, what you get with what you're doing with it. Because I tell people all the time, most people think for us, realtor, lender, our job ends when you get the keys to your house. We've accomplished the deal. And it's like, you know, I feel like 60% of our value really happens after we close, as we're helping you be a really successful homeowner. On my side, a lot of people have CPAs, financial planners, estate attorneys, a real estate agent they work with, all helping them manage their assets. But very few people have like a liability manager who's helping them manage their debts. And so what I really want to do is come alongside people and, I've helped you create this debt. Now I've got a responsibility to help you manage that debt and, and keep that cost of borrowing as low as possible over time. So, if rates aren't where you like them today, let's get the house. Let's have you start building equity. We'll set the strike rate for when is it going to make sense for us to do a, no point, no fee refi, and maybe you just have to rebuild your escrows that you're going to get back in 3 weeks from your current mortgage company. And, then if we're saving you $150 to $200 a month, we can say, well, what do you want to do with that? Do you want to pay extra on the mortgage? How much faster you're going to pay that off? Do you want to put money in a 529 for your kids? Do you want to put money into, the S&P 500? Do you want to put money in, additional life insurance or, whatever situation that you're in and helping them see that, they can utilize you know, the house purchase and the mortgage to, really increase their generational wealth.
Yeah, because they're not always looking at that bigger picture. They're just kind of looking at what's immediately in front of them. So I
Yeah,
like that liability, relationship that you're taking on.
yeah,
I often tell people too, it's not about this transaction. It's about the
yeah,
next five transactions. It's about the next five transactions of the next five people you're going to tell, about your experience with us and the opportunity to save. And to your point, what can you do with that money?
yeah,
A lot of people are sitting on a lot of equity. And so that's a good point to figure out how to get them to look at the bigger picture.
yeah, yeah. And
Challenge.
and be long-term happy. Don't,
Right.
you know, it's like you want to be the person that, you 30 years from now is going to come and give a big hug to. He's like,
Right.
thank you so much, for
Kind of like your
doing that.
kindergarten teacher. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
no. We want
yeah,
to be that person.
yeah. Should have eaten a few less pizzas, but thank you for this.
100%. Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being with us here today. I know a lot of people are going to be intrigued with your business model and what you're doing. I'm sure we're going to talk with you about, listing houses, buying houses, or maybe even being a part of your team. What's the best way for someone to get in contact with you?
You can call me at 479-531-6154. It's my personal cell phone number. You can email me over at kimw at the number one percentlists.com. Or you can check out our website at www.1percentlistar.com. And we're happy to help any way that we can. In fact, I'm sitting here looking at this cookie I'm going to devour. It's our logo.
I love it. That's awesome.
Somebody gave those to us. But yeah, I mean, any way that we can help and, just to be able to help even agents that, may not be in a position that they would like to be in. I can connect you with Grant Clayton, who's a franchise owner. I'm growing like crazy. Like I said, I was the number 28 franchise a year and a half ago, and we're up to 58 now across the country. So I mean, Austin, and my goodness, we're in California, and we just opened up
Love it.
Virginia, South Carolina. I mean, we're everywhere. So it's just a tremendous opportunity to try to do something a little bit different and not just be, like I say, another duck in a pond,
I
right?
love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Well, Kim, thank you so much for being with us. I want to thank everyone for joining us here on the Financial Advantage. We are powered by the Wells Funding Group. My name is Dennis Wells. You can reach myself and the team at 219-230-8400. We would love it if you would like and subscribe on whatever platform that you're on. And of course, share this episode with 4 or 5 other people, especially those that are maybe thinking about selling and they're not really sure if they want to. You need to reach out to Kim and have a conversation about what she can do for you.
Great.
So
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
you bet. Thank you, Kim. Have a great
Yeah,
day.
you too.